Imagine me as a fifth grader. I look much the same. I'm tall for my age. I wear my hair in a ponytail every day. And yeah, I look the same. In fifth grade, one of my favorite things was recess. I went back to my elementary school for your own benefit that this is actually where I spent my recess. That red arrow indicates the hill that my friends and I hung out every recess, all the time. We did things like played tag, we played soccer, we jump roped, and we played games that we made up. Now, one of the games that we made up is a game called James Germs. Now, because we made this game up, I will tell you how it works. James was a new student in our grade in fifth grade. We made a game where if James touched you, you had to pass the germs of the area of where he touched you on to the next person. And this went on and on and on, where you would pass and pass and pass. So we got the entire 2 years that James was great. Time he was there. And not accept him. He knew that we saw something that was other or different about him. And you don't have to raise your hand, but I wonder how many of us, telling the story of James Germs, can identify a time in their own elementary or middle school where they participated in or witnessed something like James Germs. I imagine for many of us that this game brings up experiences and feelings that we have from our own schooling experience. Some of us were maybe the bullies, others perhaps the bystander. Of course, some of us were like James, who went to school and who had a game played against them and not with them. Of course, the James Germs game was not actually about spreading germs. It was about spreading feelings. It was a way to tell James and our other peers that James did not belong. We did not include him or pretend that he was one of our friends. We made him feel different. Now, obviously, I'm not in fifth grade anymore. This happened almost 15 years ago, but I still remember it. When I think about it, I still feel guilty. My elementary school friends that I still talk to, they also remember this game. We remember what we did to James and feel terrible about it. And of course, I cringe to think that James likely remembers as well. He probably remembers being a student at our school for 2 years and feeling like he didn't belong. Now, I feel vulnerable sharing this story with all of you. Obviously, now as an adult, it sounds terrible, and it is a terrible game. I feel guilty, and I know that I was complicit in the bullying of James. And what we did to James was definitely bullying. There's no doubt about it. But it's not actually what this talk is about. This talk is about how we can disrupt experiences like James's at school. How could we prevent a game from James Germs from ever getting off the ground? How can we equip students with the skills to disrupt when they see that type of bullying or the way that other students treat others that they know is wrong? I think about myself as a fifth grader, and I think, what if I had known what empathy was? What if I had known the word bystander? So, this is a talk about the power of play. James Germs is an example of the negative use of power of play. It is a way that a game, which can be collaborative and inclusive, was used to exclude someone. Power of play is what I'm going to talk about because that's the work that I do now. I run a nonprofit here in DC called Education for Sharing. We partner with entire school communities, teachers, students, and parents, and we use the power of play to form better citizens from childhood. We equip students with the skills to be global, competent citizens, as well as to have the skills to be kind and compassionate humans. Now, Education for Sharing has an ingeniously simple model. Our premise is that we equip students with 2 knowledge bases. The first knowledge base is the Sustainable Development Goals. These are global priorities identified by the United Nations to be overcome or improved by the year 2030. These are global challenges that affect people all around the world and cover 3 main areas: planet, people, and prosperity. We want our students to be equipped with this knowledge base and to know what the Sustainable Development Goals are for 2 reasons. 1, so that they are global citizens who know what is going on in their country and the world around them, and so that they have the language to talk about those problems. And the second is to give them a framework to understand the challenges that they may see in their own community, so that they understand that they are part of a global network, that they are not the only students in this country or around the world who struggle with some of these things, and they have the opportunity to work within this framework to learn more about their own communities and the world around them. And the second thing that we equip students with, the second knowledge base we give to our students, is a set of civic values. These could also be referred to as social and emotional skills. Now, we have 7 civic values, and they are empathy, gender equality, fair play, respect, tolerance, responsibility, and teamwork. These are the crux of our programs. These are the skills that we want students to leave feeling like they have strengthened, muscles that they have flexed in their classrooms and beyond. And we believe that every student should strengthen these skills and needs these set of civic values so that they can accomplish their goals. If they identify a problem in their community from the Sustainable Development Goals, we want them to have the meaningful language as well as social skill set to affect change in a way that is collaborative, and they use responsibility and their empathy skills. So you're probably like, okay, this sounds really great, but how do you do that? And the how is very, very simple. We play. We use play as an opportunity for students to not play against each other, but to play with each other, as an opportunity for people to form teams with students they never talk to have a common goal with students that they are not friends with. We create games with students so that they have the opportunity not to be against each other. All of the games are collaborative, and students work together towards a common goal. And the games also function as a language for students. It's pretty difficult to teach second graders what sustainable cities are, for example, but it's easier for them to experience a game where they learn more about sustainable buildings and roads. It gives them the language to learn concepts that sometimes we think that kids that age cannot handle. For example, Sustainable Development Goal number 3 is good health and well-being. And when we are teaching students about the Sustainable Development Goal, we play dodgeball, everybody's favorite activity of the whole program, Dr. Dodgeball. And it's just like regular dodgeball where there are 2 teams, but each team has a doctor, and the ball represents a virus. So if the ball hits you, you're not out, you are sick, and your doctor on your team will come give you medicine. Now, your doctor has a limited amount of medicine, so this is a way for students to see what happens once a community runs out of resources, in this case, medicine. We then have the opportunity to talk to the students about, do we think this happens in the real world? Are there enough doctors for everybody? Is there enough medicine in every community for every person and every child? And the students learn something new. So we play games with the students, and then every single education for sharing activity ends in reflection. We play and we reflect. Every activity, we do a debrief and a reflection circle, and this has 2 functions. First, it reinforces what we just learned. It gives us an opportunity to say to students, hey, it's true, not everybody has medicine around the world. Here's some examples, and we get to hear their feedback, or if the problem does relate to their own community, it's an opportunity for them to share their thoughts about the problem in their community. If it doesn't, it's a way for us to communicate to them, this really does happen. And the second thing is that it provides an opportunity for check-in. And I think this is one of the most important things about the program. It provides an opportunity for us to check in of how the game went. Did we use our teamwork skills, gender equality, empathy, fair play? Sometimes the games get heated and people forget the rules. This is an opportunity for us to dial it back and check in on our social emotional skills that we are practicing with the students. I think about that if somebody had just taken a moment to reflect with me as a 5th grader on the James Germs games, wouldn't I have just sort of realized, like, wow, this must make him feel really bad? It's in those talking moments that we get at students, and we get at them in a way that helps them to form their own social emotional skills even stronger. We're not just telling them, use your empathy. We are giving them the opportunity to reflect on how they can do it better next time. This methodology fosters really important critical thinking skills that form global citizens. And the other thing that this program strengthens, of course, we use our civic values to foster social and emotional learning skills in young people. And when students have this social and emotional skill and language set, as well as the knowledge of the Sustainable Development Goals, amazing things begin to happen. Students have a blended learning environment. They have the opportunity to realize that it's not just, learning doesn't just end when the book closes. My playground can be somewhere that I learn. And this sparks a curiosity in students. They want to Google more about a Sustainable Development Goal. They come up with wildly creative things on the playground because their imaginations for what is possible for their own education has been sparked. Additionally, these programs give students the opportunity and fosters their ability to self-monitor. We see less teacher and intervention is necessary on the playground and during social time, during and after students participate in a program, because they now have the skill set and the language to talk to other students and their peers about what they want to see on the playground. They're able to say, we don't cheat, we use fair play. That requires less teacher intervention. They hold each other accountable, and they realize that they are the ones responsible for their school environment. And the last thing is that students flex the muscle of empathy. Somebody once said to me that empathy is like a muscle. You have to exercise it all the time. Students have the opportunity to practice putting themselves in other shoes day in and day out. Many of the challenges that we focus on with students don't necessarily affect them here in DC, such as clean water. It's not something that they really understand. Some people have to walk to get water, but we flex that muscle with them. What if you did? And this creates students that are flexing that empathy muscle every day. Now, I realize that I am likely in a room full of people who understand the value of social and emotional learning, but just so we're all on the same page, when I'm talking about social and emotional learning, I'm talking about 5 competencies: awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. These 5 skills together form a socially and emotionally intelligent young person. You can connect back to our 7 civic values of how we work with students on these 5 indicators. And I know that we also probably can imagine that social and emotional learning makes people feel good at school, which is not to be understated how important it is, but studies have found that social emotional learning programs also have really important academic outcomes. We can see that students who participated in a social and emotional learning program had an 11 percentile point gain in academic achievement when compared with the control. And social learning skills are positively correlated both with high school graduation as well as stable employment in young people. These are wildly important statistics that show the value not only in how we feel at school, but how we think at school. Disrupting experiences like James's is the work we do at Education for Sharing. We are not a fix-all solution. We don't come into the school environment and have things be different the next day or even the next year. But we do create the opportunity and skill set with the students to disrupt things that they want to change in their school environments. And I believe that kids do not want to bully, and we know that they do not want to be bullied. We give them the social emotional skills as well as a knowledge of challenges around the world to create this experience for them and give them the opportunity to change their school environments. There will always be kids like James. We do not change people from being like James or develop skills so that he isn't the way he is. That's not what this is about. It is about the opportunity for students like James to go to school in a bully-free environment where they know that they will not come to school and be made fun of, which is what, of course, the James Germs game was. And one of the most important parts to me about this, and I think for us at Education for Sharing, is that we are creating young people who will be different than myself. They won't be 25 years old like I am and still thinking about something that they did in 5th grade that they can't change. They will have the opportunity to use their social environment and their free time at school to include and collaborate instead of walking into a trap like James Germs. So, my challenge to you all, what I want us all to leave here thinking about, is what is the James Germs in your life? What is something where you or you see others around you just negatively interacting with others, not using your empathy or tolerance or responsible skills? What does it mean to you to be a responsible citizen? I feel that I was not a responsible 5th grader by engaging in the James Germs games. So I want us to think about the germs. Now, it's not literally going to be a game the way the James Germs game was. They're not literally germs. But there are things that we can all do and hold each other accountable and speak up what you want to see in this world. So I challenge you to think of the germs in your life and turn them into gems. I wish that when I was in 5th grade, I had the opportunity to turn James Germs into James Gems. But I didn't, and I can't go back and change it. So that's the work that I do with my students now. Thank you.